Most people who build a subscription-based business model for their clients or community think they're building recurring revenue. They're not. They're building churn, just delayed. At first, everything looks fine. People sign up, they log in, they explore. Then activity slows, engagement drops. It becomes hard to tell who's actually making progress. And eventually, people leave. Not because the idea was bad, not because subscriptions don't work, but because the subscription was built around the wrong thing. Most subscription businesses aren't ecosystems, they're information containers, static knowledge locked behind a monthly paywall. And that's where the real problem starts. Because when people talk about subscription models, they obsess over pricing, billing, and structure, but the thing that actually makes a subscription last has nothing to do with the model. It's what happens inside after someone joins. And just so you know where this is coming from, my name is Ido Letterman. For the past several years, I've been building online programs and running subscription-based businesses myself. Some of them failed. One of them has been growing consistently for the last 2 years. And the difference between this one and the ones that failed is exactly what we're about to unpack today. Alright, so before getting into the mistakes, it's important to clarify what I mean by subscription in this context. Not a technical model, not a platform, not a paid content library, not an information container filled with your courses and your toolbox, what I call static knowledge, but an ongoing framework where people choose to stay engaged in order to hold a result they've already achieved. It's not a learning experience, it's an implementation experience. And this distinction matters because once I've seen it, everything that broke in my former attempts to build subscription models started to make sense. Now, when entrepreneurs talk to me about subscriptions, I usually see 3 recurring intentions. First, selling what they've already built, past courses, tools, knowledge, everything in one place with a monthly access. Second, creating stability, predictable monthly income that reduces pressure and allows growth in other areas. And third, doing all of that with minimal involvement, less time, less energy, less day-to-day responsibility. I hear it phrased almost the same every time. I'm thinking about building a membership, putting all my past courses and tools inside, and charging $197 a month for the access. And that makes sense. It really does. And I tried it too, but it didn't work. Until I realized the problem isn't the intention. The problem is what happens next. After the first month or two, most customers simply stop using it. Not because they don't care, but because no real habits are formed. There's no conversation, no momentum. Nothing's holding them when the initial excitement fades. Even when there's an available option for asking questions and getting some level of support on demand, this is usually unused. Sometimes people even stay subscribed for a long time, not because of the value, but because the price is too low to bother canceling. But then, something interesting is happening. The gap between the money they're paying and how little they're using it creates guilt. And that guilt accumulates until the moment arrives. That's it. I've paid too much for something I'm not using. I'm done. At that point, the relationship ends no matter what you offer next. Isn't it a shame? The customer leaves disappointed in the product, in the creator, and in themselves. Everyone loses. If this already feels uncomfortably familiar, keep watching. The distinction that fixes this is coming. All right, let's talk about the critical distinction between achieving versus holding results. This is a distinction most people miss. There's a massive difference between a framework designed to achieve results and one designed to hold results. Framework for achievement takes people from point A to point B. It's a rocket launch, huge effort, high intensity, heavy support, clear destination. That's why it's usually not a subscription. It's a program with a defined commitment and a defined outcome at a defined time frame. But once the rocket is in orbit, the mission changes. Now the goal is to stay on course with far less energy, but constant precision, small corrections all the time. Because without those corrections, small drifts turns into disaster. And I discovered that that's where subscription is actually meant to come in. Not to launch, but to prevent from going off course or worse, falling back down. And now we got to the point that we're going to talk about. The only subscription model that I found lasts over time is not built around more content. It's not a static knowledge product. It's not an information container. It's an implementation system. It's built around 3 simple things. First, movement, not materials or libraries, but continuous applications of small forward progress. Second, live human presence, not constant access, but someone holding pace, standard, and direction. And third, identity maintenance, not a one-time achievement, but who the person remains even when motivation drops. Here's the key inversion. People don't pay for knowledge, they pay for results that last. And if they can get the results from what they've already learned without more noise or more tools, that's a win for them and for you. So if you've chosen to build a subscription, that's a smart decision. The question isn't whether to do it, it's how to do it right. Because from my experience, subscription isn't meant to teach people something new, it's meant to make sure they don't lose what they've already achieved. And in that sense, subscription is not a passive product, it's not a convenience play. It's a way to help clients hold the results and continue developing over time. If you're watching this and thinking, okay, I get the concept, I see the mistake, but I still don't know how to actually build this in practice, that's a fair question. I'm not going to break down the full implementation here because I think it deserves its own deep dive. So if you want me to create a separate practical video showing what a real implementation experience looks like, and how to build it without burning time or energy, leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to do it for you, and I'll use the feedback to decide what to create next. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you in the next video.